So I'm going to get started here. So that is CST, the agenda. So what are we going to talk about today?
The next
I'm
one is
going to talk
CIT.
about the sector and industry briefly. Then I will overview our three main computing diplomas. Then I'll talk about some paths that are typical for those programs, those three diplomas to move into if students want to get more education. And then we have on the side, we've got Q&A happening as we go or saving it to the end. So sector highlights. What I have first here is some 2023 data from the tech industry, from our province in particular. It's a snapshot of the size of the sector. And so one thing that we're just heartened to know here in BCIT Computing is that the government of BC looks to us to provide a pipeline for talent, that the BC government continues to list computing careers as very high opportunity occupations and among some of the better paying. There are job opportunities aplenty, especially in the Lower Mainland. But now with, one thing COVID did give us was the ability to work remotely more effectively. So we see a lot more remote work and remote hiring. So you don't necessarily need to live in downtown Vancouver now to work for a company that's based in downtown Vancouver. And it's still growing, which is also good news. Vancouver is the second highest ranked Canadian city for the tech market. Probably the first is Toronto, I believe. So we're consistently ranked among the top cities for tech in North America. We know that downtown, we have the large anchor companies like Amazon and Microsoft, but also we have growing branches in all sorts of things. So you'll hear all these kinds of acronyms like ag tech, fintech for financial software, or health tech, biotech, etc. So the point is, I believe you're in the right place if you think that you have opportunities in tech here in BC and in Vancouver. So that's the city, and now let's talk about BCIT. BCIT is well known, well respected, long-running computing programs. Grads are in high demand. And one good thing about BCIT is that its alumni are very dedicated and loyal, I would say. BCIT alumni love to hire recent BCIT grads because they will have known the programs and the rigors that you have gone through at the Institute, and they know that upon graduation, what you're capable of. So here's just a quote from a CEO and founder of Clio. If you've heard of Clio, they do software for lawyers, and they're very large here in Burnaby, very close to BCIT, actually. So talking just a little bit more about the sector, here's a picture of our program advisory committee. So just to show you how at least once a year, we meet with these people from industry. They're volunteers who meet with us, and we ask them just a bunch of questions like, what are you coding in that we're not teaching? Have you hired any BCIT grads lately? What do you like about their capabilities? What are they missing? What do we need to teach more of? Right, so we meet with them at least once a year, and we can adapt our curriculum pretty quickly to remain very relevant to the tech companies. The IT departments are very critical now to all organizations. And, I really like the headline, all companies are tech companies, because if you think of a company that you might not otherwise think of as a tech company, right? I like to use the example of Save On Foods, which is where I shop for groceries. When I had COVID, I downloaded the Save On Foods app and I ordered my groceries that way. And they must have had a way to track their inventory that way. That's all tech that's needed by not a traditional tech company. Same thing with like Philips light bulbs. Philips has a light bulb called the Hue light bulb, and you have an app on your phone and you can change the mood and color of the lighting in your home through that technology. Right? So who would have thought that, I don't know, I want to date myself, maybe 15 or 20 years ago that a light bulb company would need an app on a mobile phone. So as I go through, I kind of want to have you think about tech in two different categories. And the first category is kind of that of developing or creating. So this is really building something from scratch, like a program or an application, an app in the App Store, a web app, a game, so that's kind of one category. But another category which is often overlooked, I think, is the operational side. So that this is not so much creating something from scratch as it is integrating and configuring something. So that, a company has many different systems. They've got email and they've got servers and backup servers and remote logins, and all that has to be coordinated and put together and work seamlessly together to allow a company to do its job. So think about the operational side also, the DevOps side. Well, DevOps is a word that's really popular right now, which I'll just read it out. It says, this is producing solutions by using, modifying, and integrating systems and applications. And you do need to learn a little bit of coding also in that configure category, but not as much as the first one. So immediately upon hearing that, you might think, oh, that first or that second category, that appeals to me. That's what I think of when I think of my future career. Okay, so here just a few more stats. BCIT Computing is the largest computing and IT educator provider in Western Canada. We have many, many programs, but I am only going to talk about mostly the 3 diplomas today. They are very well recognized credentials, and they have a very high grad satisfaction and employment rate. I think we have quite a high number. I'm proud to say I think it's something like 90% of students who graduate who are actively searching for a job will find one in their field within the first 6 months of graduation. I believe it's 90%, which is quite a high number. Okay, so let's get into the meat of the presentation, the diplomas. The 3 I'm going to talk about today are Computer Systems Technology, which is our largest and longest running diploma. Next, we have Computer Information Technology, CIT. And then our newest one is our Full Stack Web Development, so Full Stack or FSWD. So if I would probably categorize CST and Full Stack as being more in the create, develop kind of category, and CIT as being more in the operational configuration category. So our programs, the demographic of them is quite interesting. We have about a third of our students who come straight from high school. We have about a third of our students who have some sort of other post-secondary credential, but not necessarily in computing. Like I know one student who has a bachelor's in psychology, and then they wanted to switch to computing. And then we have a third who I would call our more industry experienced people who might want to be switching careers. For example, I know of a student who's been a chef for the last 20 years and he doesn't want to work as a chef anymore and he's switching. So we have that kind of wide range of demographics. So if you are coming in, as I know many people do, if you're coming in saying like, oh, I'm going to be in a room full of high school students, that's not really the case. We kind of have this breakdown of a third of each kind of group of people. Okay, so why do we think our programs are awesome? It's because of our blend of theory and practice. The way that we have you put into practice in applied learning immediately the things that you were just taught the previous day. So we don't throw a bunch of theory at you and not give you a chance to actually use it. We will teach you for a little while and then give you a lab that immediately puts that into practice and lets you use it and find out where your struggles are or if you're understanding it in practice. So we do have theoretical exploration, but we supplement that with a lot of practical examples and applications, a lot of group project work, and we employ all the current tools and all of the industry techniques that you would need to be employable immediately after graduation. Common features across all of the diplomas. You'll be job ready in 2 years. You will be working in a small group, a cohort or a set of students is only 25 students. So your entire schedule for those 2 years, give or take, if you go in co-op and you return, you might be in a different group, right? But you're mostly with the same cohort, and that creates a really nice tight group of not only friendships while you're in the program, but potential good industry connections, professional connections once you graduate and you all start getting jobs. We have a lot of applied projects. We have courses where you're working on projects for industry clients or sponsors. So this is a course. So even if you don't get into co-op, everyone does these courses, so you get that experience. We do have Indigenous entry pathways, preferred entry for anyone who identifies as Indigenous, as we try to increase our minority from that group of people. And we have degree laddering opportunities upon completion. So how it works, we like to think of all of our programs as 2+2. The diploma is 2 years. Everyone must start in a diploma. You graduate from the diploma. What you do after that is your choice. Will you go off and work using that diploma? Will you go off and work and at the same time complete your bachelor's in the evenings and weekends through flexible learning? Or will you graduate from the diploma and then go straight into the full-time bachelor's and do another 2 years and get your Bachelor of Science? So those are common pathways for our students. So 2+2. So you're not committing to 4 years off the bat. You're mostly committing to 2 years and then you see what you like. The people in this picture is from one of our presentation expos. So these are groups of students that worked on projects for industry sponsors, and now they're showing off their projects, and the industry sponsors are invited to the expo and get to walk around and see not only the project they sponsored, but the projects that all the students have worked on. So here the focus, as I mentioned before, is operations, technology, and practice across IT. So think of it in very generalized terms. Think of the CIT folks as the ones who keep the companies running so that the developers can focus on their creation. So this is support, administration, keeping the servers running, making sure people have access to the right things, doing the analytics, making sure, like, for example, I think there was a Slack outage today, right? Slack is a messaging platform like WhatsApp, right? Slack was out. So the IT folks must have been frantically trying to figure out what's the problem here? Where's our lost connection here? And as I mentioned, DevOps, right? DevOps is kind of the practice of pushing out updates and making sure that your production applications are always up and running. You don't want to go to a website and see that 404 error or whatever. What I like to mention here about CIT, I called out that picture before. They'll be doing that again downtown on April 7th from 11 to 2. And if you're available that day and you want to come to our downtown campus, feel free, come in, walk in, ask for where the expo is. You can walk around, you can see the students presenting, or not presenting, but kind of showcasing their projects. You can go up to those students and ask questions. And just see what we do. Keep in mind, those are senior students about to graduate. Okay, so more about CIT. It is only downtown. Let's see, we've highlighted the fact that we use our technology education and collaboration, or tech hub, and that's also where our expos are. So it's a very interesting space, very modular and movable, and it's not like your typical classroom. So CIT is kind of like a newer teaching model. They do projects in terms 3 and 4 with industry clients. There is co-op opportunity, which is competitive entry again. And CIT has this extra thing. They have a practicum opportunity. So if you don't choose co-op, if you know someone who might be willing to hire interns, this will count as well. So you get some part-time work experience. And then even if you don't do co-op or practicum, again, you have those term 3 and 4 projects for industry sponsors. So some typical jobs for CIT graduates would be systems or user support, DevOps engineers, network administrators, system integrators. So they're making systems talk and work together, or they're maintaining or fixing or adding functions. They may do a little bit of development. They would do analysis. They might be the ones who are controlling the cloud, making sure the cloud is provisioned properly so that your apps don't crash. Supporting colleagues or analyzing data. CIT, downtown only. You could start in September or you could start in January. So again, we have that dual entry. For September, your application deadline is April 30th. And the entry, to be eligible to enter, it's basically the same as CST. We're looking for English and math. I'm going to take the average of those two grades and take the top 75 students. That's the main thing of this info session. But I have just a little bit about the next 2 years. Right? As I said, you finish full stack, you go out and be a web developer, or you finish CST and you go out and you be an applications developer. But on the side, you might want to be doing work towards your bachelor. So we have our Applied Bachelor of Science, a BSc. It used to be a Bachelor of Technology, but we've recently upgraded it to be a more recognizable credential. So it's just a standard Bachelor of Science now. So if you were to apply, if you graduate from the diploma and you apply into the bachelor's, you would do 2 more years. Your focus would be more software development and programming built on top of the diplomas. And here's where you get really into these very core and still growing areas. So you would apply directly into the games development option or the network security applications option. Those are our full-time options. We have more in part-time, but we get a lot of students who come to BCIT specifically for our games development program. So you'd probably do CST, do those two, and then you'd apply into this bachelor's program. You'd apply right into the games option. So CST graduates, as long as you're a grad of CST, you're automatically eligible to apply for the bachelor's. Other diploma programs could apply for the bachelor's, but then we need to do an evaluation of what your courses are and see if you might need 1 or 2 flex courses to make sure you have the prerequisites. Here, we do bring in more theory. We still have a lot of hands-on assignments, but we bring in more theory in the bachelor's so that the grads with the bachelor's can do more planning and analysis and design. And it culminates in a major project, which is an individual project that the bachelor students will then get to be able to include in their portfolios. So this runs in full-time only in Burnaby. It does have September and January intakes, and part-time students could start anytime, and you could take up to 7 years to complete. So say you finish your diploma and you really want to go and work, and then you take a course every term, and your course maybe even is paid for by your employer, who might have professional development funds for their employees, and you finish your bachelor's that way while you're still working. Okay, so that's the most common path. The most common path is CST right into BSc if you are going to do a 2+2. And so another common path is CIT right into digital forensics and cybersecurity. So this is another +2 at the end there. It's a Bachelor of Technology in Forensic Investigation. So this is for, as is very, very in demand right now, cybersecurity professionals. So you're either implementing practices that will keep the company secure, or possibly in the digital forensics part, you're investigating breaches and figuring out how they happened and when and what was stolen or taken and how it can be prevented. So it's either preventative or investigative, but it's all cybersecurity related. Yeah, so because CIT has to do a lot with integrations and systems, it's a natural fit for CIT diploma grads to apply for digital forensic cybersecurity bachelor. So this one says Bachelor of Technology. You can start in September or January. If you were to do it full time, it takes another 2 years, okay? Or it also still available part time. Let's see. I'm just looking at my notes here. I have a note to mention London drugs. There's cybersecurity attacks and ransoms happening all the time, but one big one, was it in the fall? Was London drugs, when London drugs was hit. And I think they had a ransom demand that they did not go for, and then they just decided to fix their own systems. And it was actually a very nice industry story because a lot of other industry people offered to help London drugs, even though they weren't London drugs employees. Right. Okay, that's it for that slide. So now I'm just closing up here, right? Um, Hopefully something sounded interesting to you. And maybe if you were a BCIT computing grad, you'd be joining over 25,000 professionals and alumni. You'll be joining an integral part of the industry. Um, you would find a tech or tech adjacent job, right? Sometimes in your journey through the program, you might find that you really enjoy something which you didn't think. Like you might think, oh, I'm coming in for games, but maybe you love databases. So you'll find your way there, and we'll make sure you have all the opportunity to learn about all of those aspects so you can really find what hits for you. You'll come out with solid technical skills. You'll have been trained hands-on. You'll have industry experience, project experience, the ability to collaborate. As I said, BCIT alumni know that if you graduate, you have a strong work ethic and that you're adaptable and resilient. So our grads will have all of these things, and that's why we're proud of them. If you came in early, you may have seen some endorsements of success stories of some of our grads. And let's see, I think, yeah, I just want to finish up by saying employers in the industry know all of these things about computing grads. So if you chose BCIT, I think you would be making the right choice.